Okay, so it's been 2 weeks, and our microbes inside our bokashi kitchen composter have been hard at work turning our kitchen food waste into the pre-compost, the fermented free compost under the bokashi system. Now it's time to open up our bucket and return the fermented food waste back into the soil where it's needed. When we open the bucket, don't expect to see the rich black humus that we would normally see in a traditional composting method. We're fermenting here, and under the fermentation process, the visible nature of the food waste doesn't change initially. It will appear to be very much the same as what you put into there, but during the fermentation process, the chemical and physical properties of the food waste have been changed, and it's ready now for rapid assimilation back into the soil. But this is ready now. It's been sealed up for 2 weeks. I filled it up with food. Layer of food, layer of bokashi, layer of food, layer of bokashi, and sealed it up once it was done. Draining the tea every couple of days and let it sit unopened, that's the key thing, for 2 weeks. Now when I open the bin, we would expect to see a successful result, and a successful result is a mildly pleasant vinegar, sour smell to it, and the presence of white mold across the top of the food waste in the bin. That's a sign of a successful fermentation. You'll see that most times. So I'm going to open it up now, and I'm going to show you the trench method for dealing with the pre-compost. The trench method is the most common and actually our recommended method to deal with it. So you'll notice first off the bin, after it's sat for 2 weeks, which it has, this is sat for 2 weeks, the contents actually start to shrink. And that's because we pressed them down, but also because gravity pulled it down on its own. And I can see right off that we've got white mold through it. So this was successful. I've got no foul odor coming. And I should quantify what foul is. I mean, I'm not going to suggest that people enjoy the smell, but it's not foul. That's the key thing. There is very much the presence of white mold all through this. You can see a little bit of black or green or blue here and there mold. If you do, it's not a sign of a failure. It's still fine. Bear it. It's great. But if it's predominantly black, green, or blue, and again with that foul smell, don't bear it. It's going to be tossed out in the garbage at this point. You could probably bring it back to life if you enhanced it with a significant amount of more bokashi bran and let it sit for another 2 weeks. But you don't need to do that if you don't want to. So again, trench method. We're going to bury this in the garden. Mix it with some soil, backfill it with the soil that we dug out, let it sit for 2 weeks. This is the final process. This is the finishing of the pre-compost. In 2 weeks, you can plant on top of it, you can plant into it, you could dig it up, spread it around your garden if you want to. But what I'm doing, I'm picking an area of my garden that is not very healthy at the moment. It's underutilized. I'd like to grow here, but the soil has not got a lot of organic matter in it. It's a bit sandy, but it needs some enhancing, and the bokashi compost is perfect for this. So you dig a hole about 12 inches deep. Don't get out your tape measure. It's not an exact science. But about 12 inches deep, about the width of your shovel, and about 2 feet long. If you don't have an area of your garden that's that big, you've got too many plants, or your garden is too small, then just dig holes around your plants. Get it down into there in smaller batches, but do what I'm going to show you now in smaller batches, and that will be equally successful. Now we'll just toss the bucket into the hole. It looks good. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, the food waste, I can see avocado peels, I can see some eggshells, I can see the general shape and look of everything that was originally put in there. That's totally fine. That's how it's supposed to look. But break it up a little bit. And what we're going to do at this point, now it's sort of lightly fluffed up a little bit, add about 1 inch or 2 of soil across the top of it. Okay? The point is, at this point, we want to mix it with some soil before we cover it. This allows all of the flora that are in the soil to go to work and now finish the compost. So you're going to give it a good and proper stir up. Again, it's not an exact science, but just so long as you don't have solid clumps of your bokashi pre-compost, sitting in various areas. As long as you do have a good solid mix of soil with it, that's great. Now go ahead and backfill it with everything that you've dug in out of there. This does two things. One, it keeps the oxygen away from it. Two, it keeps any critters from having any interest in it. Not that they should have any interest, because the fermentation process has made it unattractive to them already, but this will help too. That's it. That's the trench method. This, to repeat, it's about 2 weeks. Let it sit there. If you've had meat and bones and some heavier items, you could let it sit longer if you want to completely see the evidence of those materials removed. But in 2 weeks, you can plant on this. Absolutely. You can plant into it. You can plant around it. And the only thing to note is when you do dig your trench or your holes around your existing plants in the garden, don't dig it within about a 12-inch area around any existing small or delicate plants, because the pre-compost is actually acidic in nature, and that can be harmful for the roots of these existing plants. So the 2 weeks, what happens is the flora from the existing soil, they work on it and it assimilates the pre-compost back into the soil. It returns the pH to a neutral to balance what's existing in the soil around you. At that point, you can plant back into it, and your existing plants and your new plants will enjoy a slow release fertilizer and all the benefits that come with a good soil structure.